Hey, I'm Guy Sebastian.
And I'm Dr. Anita Collins.
And don't forget to tune in to
Don't Stop the Music on Sundays at 7:40. The first instrument I picked up was, I was mucking around on the organ we had at home, and then I got organ lessons and I hated it. And then I was given a clarinet and I loved it.
My first instrument was violin, and I was no good at it. I learnt for like 7 years, but I didn't get really past one song. So every rally bash, you know, my family would wheel me out to like play the violin, but it'd be the same song and I was always just as bad. So my progress over a year was non-existent.
Many.
Master of none. Master of none, but I play drums, I play piano and guitar, and I think, yeah, that's about it.
I play clarinet, which means I can play bad flute, bad oboe, bad bassoon. But recently, about almost 2 years ago, I took up cello, which has been really good to be a learner again and get frustrated and annoyed, but I absolutely love it.
Cello's hard.
Cello's hard. Yeah, clarinet's easy, cello's hard. I think it can be and it should be. It's a great instrument to start playing on, and I know it's really interesting that it's gone out of favour. I know 50 of them together do not sound good, but from a musical point of view, from an educational point of view, they're the perfect instrument to start on. But it's always good. I know I started on recorder and it led me to playing clarinet, and I was like a step ahead when I got onto the clarinet. I went, oh, this is easy, I've done this before, it's just bigger and more air.
It's just such an accessible instrument because it's you know, it's this big and it's light and it's cheap.
And it's cheap, yeah.
You know, every kid can get their hands on it, and it's quite immediate. You can, it's like the melody pop.
Yeah.
Remember, you're starting,
yeah,
and you're learning intervals, like music notes and the intervals.
Fine motor skills by putting your fingers down, air control, everything.
I always try and play Titanic on the melody pop.
Oh, how's that sound?
It's not bad.
Okay.
I've gotten quite good at it.
Okay. I get this question all the time, and there is no better or worse instrument. It's really, really important to understand that every musical instrument has the potential to help every single kid, but it's about what they're attracted to and what they're really, like, they go and they go, I want to play that. Like Sam who went, I saw the violin and I started to shake, and it needs to be that reaction that they get. And
what if they don't get any reaction? And what if their reaction is kind of this?
Yeah, I think then it's about, you know, just trying out something, and sometimes that reaction comes from either I don't connect with it, or I'm just not sure, I'm really scared about doing this. Like, I've heard learning music's really hard, and sometimes kids take a while to fall in love with an instrument. I mean, some of the kids we saw on the program who couldn't make a sound to start with, so what, you know, it would have been so easy for them to give up, to just say, no, this is too hard, can't make a sound, I'm not going to do it.
But I guess it's also because, like, kids aren't necessarily used to, there's not a lot of things that kids do that are necessarily, like they'll do, you eat your dinner or clean your room or put your stuff away, but there's not a lot of activities that they do that isn't out of choice. So I think that's why a lot of kids, when they're told to like practice an instrument, if they don't want to do it, that to them they're like, why am I doing this? And so it is hard. Like I'm lucky because Hudson, I just bought him his first guitar the other day. He's 6 years old, and that was an easy one because he was desperate to get a guitar, and every time I had my guitar out, he would start and he'd venture over and he'd start trying to strum it, and so I'm lucky in that sense. But piano's been a bit of a tough one. I've been trying to get him to practice piano, and he's like a bit of a chore for him. Yeah,
I think sometimes it's about that attraction if they get it very strongly, and sometimes they grow into it. So my daughter, at the age of just before she was 4, she piped up and said, I want to learn violin, Mum.
Yeah.
I went, really? And she'd never seen one. She'd never come to, like, she hadn't come to an orchestral rehearsal with me. And I didn't know where it had come from. And then she kept at it over the next week, and I went, okay, well, let's give it a try. You know, it's 4 years later, and she's got her own violin, and she's still playing, and she's got concerts. And
but if that doesn't happen, it's okay to, like, sort of push something onto them?
Yeah, or get them to try something and just say it's for a certain amount of time. And then the most important thing in that is to go, okay, well, they can't just pick an instrument out of a book or a picture. They have to actually like play the instrument. They have to give it. They hear it, and something resonates inside of them.
Yeah, right.
There is an incredibly strong connection between music and language development. They share overlapping neural networks, and it's an automatic connection. So the more you learn the more you learn music, the better your language will become. The connection between music and maths has been investigated, because it's kind of like, oh, music helps you with maths, because it's all fractions and division and all that sort of other stuff. They haven't found as much of a connection in terms of the neural networks. It's actually about increasing cognitive capacity to then understand like an abstract idea like numbers. But the language connection is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it seems like as a musician, maths would be the thing that music would affect the most, because there's so much maths in music. Like there's, when you're learning scales, and when you're learning how to jump between scales and how to apply, because I mean, music's so complex, and there's all the different modes and like, you know, Lydian and Dorian and all those sort of things. And when you get complex with music, it's how to apply, you know, if you hit the third chord of this scale, you can actually apply a completely different scale. And when you dive into complex music, it is so mathematical.
And you've got to think in that abstract form to go, okay, this could be my pivot chord or note to go into this different mode, and it becomes that abstract thinking. So musically trained kids are quite good at abstract thinking, but when it comes to other sort of areas of mathematics, they're quite good at geometry too. But there's other ones it's not a blanket statement, but it definitely helps with all their learning. And I agree, mathematically I think very logically and abstractly when I look at compositions.
Yeah, I guess if I had, there were so many moments whilst recording Don't Stop the Music that made me realise that we were doing something really important. I mean, there was an Indigenous kid who his attendance rate was 25%. They stuck an instrument in his hand, and suddenly he had purpose. He was gaining, you know, all sorts of encouragement, and you know, people saying, oh, you're getting so much better, and blah, blah, blah. And they were words that he hadn't really heard before. And so suddenly he had this purpose. His attendance went up to 85%. And, you know, that's one story. There were so many others as well. You know, little Taj, who has multiple seizures, sometimes a minute. You know, we wrote a little song together. I was actually told he was socially not very confident. And his parents were shocked, because we had this rapport straight away. We wrote a little song together, and he just opened up, and yeah, he's just sent me a violin video on Instagram. Actually, his mum sent me just you know, and he's like, Guy, I've just wanted to show you this new song that I learned. And so, you know, that was his avenue. And if music education wasn't there, where would he have found that? You know, like he wasn't finding it in sport. He wasn't finding it necessarily in other places. And so the fact that music provided him that's amazing. And so there's tons of examples.
Yeah, there's not just one. I think I feel incredibly privileged to have been part of their journey. So to see them over time, because we got to visit a number of times, and to see how the kids had changed. For me, it was some of the girls who were so quiet to start with, and they didn't want to look you in the eye, and they were frightened. They were frightened of everything, and then to barrel on up to you the next time and go, oh, you know, hello, look what I've done, look what I've learned. And I did a lot of work with the brass band, which were super loud. But they were trying their hard. They just wanted to do.
That was pretty bad. They got good though.
They did. And seeing them wanting to help each other and all of that stuff, just, it was the stories of the kids. But I particularly remember about 10 minutes before the concert started in the third episode, and I sat there with the executive producer and I said, do you realise what you've done? And she said, I'm just starting to realise. And she's changed that school, and this program has changed this school, and
Yeah, it really has.
and to be part of that is such a massive privilege, and I feel like I know the kids now and want to see them succeed.
And we got a whole bunch of results that came through, and as in academic results, and that was a bit of a, you know, sort of, we choked up a little bit at that, because the principal was so excited, especially the Indigenous kids at the school. They, because the attendance went up, obviously their academic results went up as well. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was very, very, very moving.
You know what? I'm going to say not a student. I'm going to say Mr. Blanchard.
Mr. Blanchard.
Because that's another massive part of this show is the fact that there's a lot of teachers out there that don't feel like they're equipped or good enough on a musical level to be able to teach kids, and it just shows what a little bit of expert training can do for someone like Mr. Blanchard, who had a very base level of knowledge musically, and yet it was his passion that drove what he did and the impact that he has on the kids. He was like he was like this in all the good ways. He was like Mr. G or something, and he was awesome. I just loved it.
Yeah. And I love that he was so open to saying, I don't know what I'm doing and I need to learn, and everything, even when he got things wrong, he just went, I've got it wrong, let's do it again. And he was so willing to, he was desperately searching for advice and learning as much as he possibly could, and he's the best kind of Australian teacher, I think, and I think he's a story that we should keep following, and a story that is very powerful. And while the kids are gorgeous and beautiful and funny, Simon has done something extraordinary as a professional.